Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD television. I'm Steve Lance. President Biden and Democrats today are pushing to revive a bill that would require campaign groups to disclose big money donors. They say it's a way to expose dark money, while Republicans say it's another effort to federalize elections. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
There's much too much money that flows in the shadows to influence our elections. It's called dark money.
The 2022 midterm election cycle is among us, and Democrats are concerned about campaign donors.
Right now, advocacy groups can run ads on issues, attacking or supporting a candidate right until Election Day without disclosing who's paying for that ad.
A bill dubbed the Disclose Act would require greater transparency into who is behind campaign advertising. For example, super PACs are independent political action committees, which may raise unlimited sums of money from corporations, unions, and individuals to run ads. Groups like this would have to disclose donors who contributed more than $10,000 during an election cycle. But Republicans say it goes a step too far.
This Disclose Act is designed to target and harass speech that the left doesn't like. It is blazingly unconstitutional.
But the bill has lingered in Congress for more than a decade. When it was last brought up in the Senate 10 years ago, Republican leader Mitch McConnell decried it as a Democrat effort to, quote, pick and choose who gets to speak in elections and how much they speak. But the bill's sponsor, Senator Whitehouse, says it's important to go on record.
Who wants to remove the dark money toxin from America's political system? And who insists on protecting and defending it?
Schumer vowed a vote this week, but it's unlikely to have the Republican support needed to pass. And while the Senate is taking action with this bill, the House is also trying to move a different bill related to elections. That is the Presidential Election Reform Act. This one is meant to reform the 1887 Electoral Count Act, making it harder to overturn presidential election results. So while both chambers are moving very different election reform bills, it is clear that Democrat leadership is trying to message to voters right now, just ahead of midterms, that Democrats are trying to do something in regards to election reform, especially after they failed to pass voting rights legislation all year. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Interest rates set by the Federal Reserve are expected to increase again this week. The raise will likely be another 75 basis points, equal to 0.75%. The Fed has signaled their determination to curb inflation, which still hovers at historic highs. Raising interest rates makes it more expensive for banks to borrow money. This will then be reflected in consumer loans such as credit card interest rates, mortgages, and auto and student loans. The expected interest rate hike will be the 5th this year. It's already been raised by 2.25%. About a quarter of house builders say they've reduced their home prices this month. That may seem like good news for people with enough for a down payment on a home. However, the cost of a home mortgage is up considerably, and so are building materials. These compounding costs are putting the price of home purchases out of reach for many people. Mortgage rates were reported to be above 6% last week, the highest level since 2008. And home prices are also elevated after the buying boom during the pandemic. To assess the interest rate hike's impact on the economy, we sat down with Congressman Ralph Norman. Here's our exchange. Congressman Ralph Norman, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Glad to be here, Steve.
Congressman, I just want to touch upon President Biden's recent interview on 60 Minutes. He downplayed 8.2 inflation, just going up a speck to 8.3. What type of message do you think that sends?
A couple of messages, Steve. One, he's disconnected. I mean, it's obvious that he's not running the country. The cabal that is gets it. This is a deliberate attempt to undermine America. I mean, the highest inflation rates in 14 years. For 17 straight months, inflation has outpaced wages. The Americans now are feeling it at the gas pump. They're feeling it in the grocery market. They're feeling it in the crime statistics. I mean, there is no bright light with what this administration is doing, and it's intentional. And so it doesn't surprise me that he's saying that. He downplays it because he's insulated from it. But the American people, for the first time, I guess in the last couple of months, I've seen it in South Carolina. They're mad. They're saying, why has this happened? we need some relief. And this administration is still has blinders on. They feel like they're not accountable, but I think they will be accountable on November 8th.
Congressman, your previous life, you were in real estate. The recession in the housing market has already started with the Fed set to raise rates again. Where do you see things going?
Well, Jerome Powell said one thing right. It's not going to be a soft landing. It's going to be a very hard landing. And you got to remember, interest rates are a key component. Housing is the bellwether for the economy because it affects so many different trades, from footings to architecture to the lawyers closing the loans. And as housing goes, so goes the economy. And I know in our company, we've shut down 3 to 4 projects that we would have gone through with. But when you're paying more for money, when you have projects that you can't finish because of the supply shortage. I bought a battery the other day for a Ford 150 truck, 12 years old. I got the last battery. And I said, what gives with this? And they said, well, it's offshore somewhere. Quote, because of COVID. Well, COVID's long been over with, but the American people they're trying to sell a bill of goods that's not selling. And it's down to the point that when you see housing pretty much coming to a slowdown because of all the factors mentioned, you're going to see the economy pretty much on the skids. Look at what Europe is going through now. With what Russia's doing on energy, Europe has got a real problem with a recession, if not more.
Do you think that the housing cool down is keeping up with the interest rate hikes, or is it still, with another 100 basis points here, is it going to exacerbate the situation? Absolutely, because, when and it's in different parts of the country. In the South, you have people moving down there. I can't tell you the license plates that are New York, New Jersey, California. They're coming south, but they've got a limit on what they can spend. And when rates go up, where they're borrowing cuts into what they can spend at home on basic essentials, that's when you see the slowdown. And housing is already beginning to slow in our market. Houses that used to sell overnight now are sitting on the market, and you're going to see extensions on housing that sit on the market that are not selling, and then those that are not going to start housing because you can't complete them. When you're back in the district and talking to your constituents, how big of a concern is the economy for them moving forward? Oh, it's a huge concern because it's money out of their pockets. When you go to the gas pump and see, before you get your own gas, odd numbers like $15. I mean, a typical fill-up used to cost Americans, depending on the number of gallons, but half what it's costing today. And you could buy unleaded at $1.85. Now it's $4.50, $5, and up. So they're feeling it on the basic essentials. They're seeing the empty shelves where they can't get the products that they normally get. They're seeing when they go get a cheeseburger or a hamburger at a local fast food that what they're paying. And so, normally you have offsets on this. You'll have something to go up, other things will go down. But when you have severe shortages, when you have the cost of borrowing money, when you have the fact that Americans, their dollars just aren't going where they used to, as far as they used to, then it becomes critical. And the soft landing is not going to be there. We're into a recession, and from the acts of this administration, not their words, we're going to be in a recession for a good while. Congressman Ralph Norman, thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. A new report called the Global Faith and Media Index looks at how religion is treated in the media. The researchers surveyed close to 10,000 people in 18 countries, and 53% say they believe media coverage actively ignores religion as an aspect of society and culture. 61% say media coverage often perpetuates faith-based stereotypes rather than addresses and protects against them. 43% say they feel that the media's current approach to faith and religious coverage creates unease and anxiety. And 63% say their countries need high-quality content on faith and religion. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.